Okay, we are live. Got a few folks here. We'll wait a little bit to get everyone situated. Let's see. Oh, did you want to send me that Figma file? Actually, I don't know if you want to offer that to the audience if they want to see like a read-only view or something.
Well, no.
No.
I would rather share my screen because there are multiple Figma files. Like I did not organize anything in particular. I'm going to share my screen and walk them through the gradual improvement of this design. And yeah, I think it's best because they're just multiple files. I can share any Figma files afterwards. Like if anyone is really interested in seeing like how I did something, but the UI is fairly simple. It's pretty simple.
Okay. Well, that's cool. Seeing your screen share, I think, should be totally fine. By the way, did you get some rest?
Of course. What do you mean? Like, of course I got some rest. Yeah, I did manage to sleep. For 5 hours.
It's been a little hectic lately.
I know. Crazy day. I mean, look at that background. We were just talking about it. That is not a virtual Zoom background. That is an actual bar. Like, look at that.
Look, it's interactive. I can move things around. It's like
totally
AR. It's augmented reality.
Look at that.
Speaking of, I think while you're talking, I think I need to be mixing cocktails or something. I think that's.
I mean, you're going to be doing the cocktails, and I'm going to be doing the design, right? So that's why it's called Design+Cocktails.
Yeah, exactly. I like this. Let's see. I feel like I should tweet this out once more. Nicole, did you tweet a photo? You said you seemed like you were going to, and I was like, oh, I'll just use your tweet.
Like right now on my screen, you're kind of blurry, and I don't know why.
Oh.
Waiting for that to even itself
resolve.
back out.
Let me try something. I'm going to try something. This may screw up my connection, but let me try it.
Sure. So, by the way, me and Chris decided to do this Design and Cocktails after a friendly chat, and I noticed his bar in the background, and he usually doesn't have his office set up like that with the big the big bar frame. But just on a friendly chat, we started exchanging ideas and suggestions for drinks, and we realized that this could be something really cool to do. So that's how Design and Cocktails got started, just as a background.
Yeah.
It's starting to look better. Thank you. Whatever you did, or if it just resolved itself.
Well, I switched from Cloudflare DNS to Google DNS, so maybe that helps.
Your webcam quality is much better right now. That is amazing.
Okay, well, thank Google for that, I guess. Huh.
All right.
Cool. All right. So once Nicole puts that out there, then I will, start mixing a drink. But so why don't we catch everyone up first? What's up? Alias. Okay. So we got someone from Melbourne coming in. I mean, is it too early for a cocktail? It says tomorrow already. Okay. We got 9 p.m. You're at 9 a.m., Claudio, even though you can't tell because your environment has not changed.
This is 5 a.m. and I will this is 5 a.m., but this is normal for me. This is nothing out of the ordinary. And I can share some productivity tips for my own lifestyle and how I handle myself.
Like don't sleep, become a vampire.
Exactly. No, this is not too early for me. And I will be drinking a sip of scotch. So
little cognac, a scotch. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Got it. Great. Well, do you want to kick us off and I'll start thinking about a cocktail or something?
Sure. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully more people will join. This will be a very design-focused live event as both me and Chris have design backgrounds. My name is Claudiu Cioba. I'm the founder of Reeview.app. We have been launching today on Product Hunt, and I will be sharing, the Product Hunt link that so you can go and support us if you want to. We also had a previous live event where we talked more about the business side and about the marketing side of the product. And during this live event, I intend to cover and offer an in-depth view of how this idea got started, by me who's a designer, and how I explored different visual solutions and the lessons that I've learned along the way and during our beta testing, because we had a beta testing from January to February. And I strongly recommend that you go and also listen to the previous talk, because that will talk a bit more about the story of the company and how the idea came to be. But just in short, Reeview is an automated platform that finds, collects, and displays authentic user-generated video review. We're launching on Shopify today, and then we're planning on adding, we already have them added, WooCommerce and Magento. We're not yet marketing them, but we're planning on launching other platforms as well almost every month, and we're going to do it with Chris as well. So that's just a bit of a background about myself. I'm a product designer. I've been doing this for about 14 years, so quite a long time. I don't think there was the word product design 14 years ago. I don't think so. I think it was web designer. That was like the name, and the majority of people call themselves web designers, and people started calling themselves UI designer or human interface designer. And you got all of these like crazy positions, global director of human interface, and stuff like that. And then UX starting in the picture, like you could hear the term UX and user experience, and I just do UX, I don't do UI anymore. But I believe that you need to do both if you want to be a great designer, and I think that you also need to know how to code as well. I mean, at least the bare minimum of like writing an HTML and CSS, like script. That's it. I will not even consider that proper code, because you're not like actually, doing anything programmatically. You're just writing syntax. So.
Oh, it's getting snobby.
right. Like there are so many designers out there that do not code, right? And they do web applications, right? Mobile apps. I mean, it's fine, but if you do know how to code, your communication with your development team will improve so much, and you're going to be able to be better at understanding of the limitations that you have when you're designing and how you can help your team. Because a very simple change that you might do in an interface for a product might have huge consequences afterwards for your team. It might be really hard to implement, or like that small thing might take, 2-3 days. So it's good to prioritize, and also, if you know how to code, it's going to help. You don't need to be an expert, like a senior developer, but you do need to understand it. And I strongly recommend people, focus on that. So as I was saying, Chris will be doing the mixing today. And he's, I'd like him, I'm just going to start it off and say, I am drinking coffee, just so you know, I am drinking coffee. But I did pour, and this is one of my favorite brands. This is a Highland Park. This is 14-year-old single malt Scotch. Yeah. Oh, you got it. Amazing. So this is one of my favorite drinks, and I did pour some of it into my coffee. However, my drink of choice in terms of cocktails, which I won't be mixing today because it's 5 a.m. over here in Romania, is I'm a fan of Campari. So anything. Oh, you don't have it? Yes.
It's somewhere. I have it somewhere, but yeah.
So one of my favorite.
I'm gonna in your honor. Then what I'm gonna do is this will be delicious. Okay, I know what I'm gonna do. I figured out. Okay, so
are you gonna do an old fashioned, Chris? What are you gonna do?
No. Okay, so I went out to this place nearby where I live last night called Farmhouse Kitchen, and it's like a Thai. Had this? It was a Negroni variation that used mezcal. So Tika for the sweet vermouth, which I have. But what I'm going to use, I'll do a little bit of both. So I'll use a little Camparo and Tika. I'll use a little Campari. And I'm going to go with mezcal. And I'm going to do some coffee liqueur.
Wow.
So, this will be a little bit like a little, morning brew buzz, but a little bit of smokiness for your Scotch. And then the Campano and Tika and a little bit of Campari. So, all right, continue.
I think Chris is using Campari because he knows that that's my favorite drink of choice. So during the summer, you're always going to see me with a glass of red liquor in it. And people ask me like, "What are you drinking?" But it's just Campari.
By the way, I highly recommend great alternative to Campari. If you're into that.
Good morning again for everyone that's waking up like me. This is 5 a.m. and I did say that I'm going to share like a productivity tip with people. So I've been working as a designer fully remote for the past 10 years, I guess. I've had offers at Facebook, at Apple. I didn't end up going there. I really appreciate my independence and staying in control over the products that I built. And because of this, I had the opportunity to work with different companies. I helped redesign their apps. I helped create new apps from scratch and help them raise funding or exit afterwards because of the product design. I'm used to working closely directly with either the product manager or the CEO. And for me, that was very satisfying, because actually being in control of the design process for a product. And as a productivity thing, like, I'm always working from home, right? So you gotta stay super organized. Like, I've been like, this remote work thing is only catching up, but I've been doing it for 10 years. And I kept telling people, like, hey,
trendsetter.
Yeah. Working from home is really good. Like, it's really flexible. I think it's amazing, especially if you have a family and you might want to be around, but you do need to stay organized, and self-discipline is very important. And I think that one book that influenced me early on was the autobiography of Benjamin Franklin, and he was a productivity freak. I mean, the guy was amazing, and he tried to do 2 working days out of a single working day. So he would wake up early, 4:30. What are we having over there? Is that vermouth?
This is the Carpano Antigua. It is. Yes, this is vermouth.
Yes, amazing.
Yes.
So he woke up at 4:35 a.m. He used to have a workday, like 7-hour workday up until noon. Then he took like a siesta, 2-hour siesta to like sleep and eat. And then he would just have another working day up until the evening. And I personally did that for the last, as I said, 10 years of my life, and it's been going great. I've been able to be super productive and to work twice as much as other people. And I don't consider this work. This is what I love to do. So for me personally, this is a hobby. And when you have hobbies like this, you end up working a lot just because, it's a pleasure to do it. So Chris, what are you doing? What are you doing? Can you share more?
This is my little brew right here. So this is
okay.
coming together. Yeah.
Tell us what you got in it. Maybe people are going to want to reproduce it.
Okay, right. So like I said, this is sort of a Negroni variation, and all Negronis basically have the same formula. It's a mix of typically gin, Campari, and a sweet vermouth. So all cocktails. So why I like cocktails is because, one, it's like cooking for idiots, where one, the ingredients never go bad, and two, if you screw up, you can just kind of like add more things, where it's hard to kind of like uncook a chicken. So that's one of the nice things about it. And from a design perspective, you kind of do constant little iterations until you figure out the tools of the trade and you figure out like how they all kind of work together. And so the thing that you mostly have to learn is just that all good cocktails are kind of an expression of different balances and ratios. So a Negroni basically is a combination of a sweet, spirit, and then a bitter. And that's basically true of all cocktails. The Negroni, though, is a 1-to-1-to-1 ratio. So basically you're using an ounce of gin or your spirit. You're using an ounce of sweet, in my case, the Campari Antigua, as well as I'm using this coffee liqueur, which is made actually pretty close to here in California. This is a St. George variant. And then you have your bitter. And so you put those together, and then you kind of like try it, and maybe you need to like lift it up with like orange zest or whatever. But I'm going to substitute, instead of gin today, I'm using some Vita Mezcal. So I'm getting some of that smokiness to relive a little bit of my experience last night. And anyways, just like mix these all together. I'm going to get some ice in a second.
I sometimes prefer lime with my Negroni.
Lime, that's good.
It's a twist. It's a twist. The orange zest is the classic version.
Orange is good.
Yeah.
Even in this case, right? Like, I'm not quite sure like what's going to go well with like the mezcal. It could be, if you substitute bourbon in this case, and that's a Boulevardier. So it's just useful to know kind of like what these variations are. It's sort of like, the pentatonic scales, like in guitar, you like learn the scales and then you can like play any song.
A simple variation, like, if you don't have access to all of the various, booze and spirits that Chris has, is what I do. This is my cheap, like summer, Negroni, which is just gin, Campari, ice, and lime. That's it. It's easy. You just put it in there.
Delightful and easy.
Yeah, and it's just a tonic, a bitter tonic drink. Tonic water could be added as well, but I try not to because of the sugar in it. Like most commercial tonic waters do have a lot of sugar in it. So
that's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
So
all right, wait, so I'm gonna go get some ice. But when are we gonna see some design stuff?
Yes, exactly. So first, I'm going to show you a bit of the review app of our app that we're launching on Product Hunt today. Let me actually share my screen. I'm going to share my screen right now in the browser, and you can actually see, so that you can actually see the app working, and then I'll be showing the design files. Nicole, is my screen shared? I'm not 100% able to tell. I think it is, right?
Yes.
Amazing. So you can see our actual application right now.
Yep, looks good.
Yes. So this is our actual application. I'm just changing some things, like hear from our customers, because I used to play with these widgets.
Why? So wait, before you dive into this, let's just give people like a very quick. Of course, if you go to the Product Hunt page, you will get to see kind of roughly like what the app is about. But the whole idea of this current release is to provide Shopify shopkeepers the ability to embed video reviews from YouTube that are curated by the shopkeeper into a Shopify
store
page, basically.
Yes,
store.
Thank you so much.
So what we'll be seeing today from a design perspective is essentially the design process. Then we'll get to the Figma file eventually that went into what you're seeing now, which is the live launched product.
Exactly. Thank you so much for the intro, Chris. And I do want to add to this that the YouTube video results that we provide are only one part of the product. We also provide collecting video reviews from your customers. So whenever a shopper places an order, you can set up an email campaign to automatically send them an email to collect their video review. And this is one part of the interface that we have not covered in the live event that we had previously. There you go, Chris. Thank you. Show us your skills while I talk. You can set up the amount of days after which this email gets sent so that you can make sure that the product was shipped to the customers. You can set up a discount offer, an incentive that's percentage or fixed. And then you can also customize the content of this email by also adding dynamic content fields in here just to personalize it even more. This is also responsive. It works great on mobile. And as a shop owner, you do have moderation where you can moderate, you can approve or reject the video reviews that you collect. So if a video review has been approved, we automatically generate a coupon code in Shopify that's unique for that customer and can only be used for a certain amount of time that you set up. And then they get a thank you email with their discount code. So we also collect video reviews, and you can use that. And from the shopper's experience side, all they do is they get the email. They don't need to install any mobile app or any other app. They click on the email on the email that they receive. Selfie camera opens up. They record themselves. They use the video. They agree to your terms and conditions, and they can send the video. Very simple, frictionless. I think is the simplest experience out there in terms of collecting a video review. Now, in terms of actually showing video reviews and unboxing videos on the Shopify page, I am using, by the way, a sample store because I don't want to show any customer data from a live store. And please disregard the store theme. This is as simple as a store theme can get. That looks really, really delicious, Chris. Please let us know how it is. You haven't tasted it, right? Okay. Let us know how it is.
Yeah, well, cheers.
Cheers with Irish coffee.
Great. This is it's good, but the good news is it's going to be better once I get a little orange on this sky to lighten it up a little bit.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do it. Okay.
I would normally toast it, but I'm afraid I might burn up my little bar here. So I'm just gonna do this. I'm probably getting
that's the classic look. That's what you want to see. You want to see that orange peel, and then that bloody red in your glass.
Yeah. I'm gonna get a nice big beer. I'll be right back. Keep talking.
Of course. So disregard the Shopify theme, which is a very basic and neutral theme that I'm using for this demo. So one way that we're showing videos on the site is by using a floating widget. Floating widget. So when shoppers click on the floating widget, this automatically slides from the bottom left side of the corner. This widget automatically adapts to the amount of videos that you put into it. So I'm just going to go into the moderate page where the shop owner can moderate the videos for all of their products. Now, obviously, I just have one for this demo because I quickly created this Shopify store. And we do suggest all of the results, the relevant results that we find on YouTube. I'm not going to go into detail. Oh, fancy, Chris. Fancy. You're prepared.
Just wait till it goes in. Wait.
Oh my God. And you can add, you have multiple video suggestions from YouTube. Look at what Chris is doing. It's so hard to focus because, that cocktail is amazing. Great. Okay. Enjoy it, Chris. Enjoy it.
Thank you. Ro, this is a, I will share the recipe, but this is a mezcal Negroni, basically. That's what we got.
Thank you. Man, please do share it. I want to try it out as well. Your version, not my version. But getting back to the
yeah.
I'm not going to go into detail with the video widget and with the way that we show video. I just wanted to point out that this type of floating widget is responsive and it adapts to the amount of content that you put into it. So this automatically turned into a playlist type of widget where all of the videos that you approved for this product, all the videos that you approved are going to be shown in the form of a playlist. You can see that in my demo, they're on mute because I automatically set it on mute. But when you actually play it on a website, it will have sound. And we also offer inline video options. And I'm going to go to one of our customers' websites. This is grillrescue.com. And they've included a carousel, a video with videos underneath their add to cart button because this is one of the best places for high conversion widgets. If you want to put video, they're really going to attract attention. So if you click on this is a different type of player. This is a full screen type of player, very different from the one that you've seen over here. And this is because we're experimenting with multiple types of player. We do want to offer choices to people. We have more that we're designing and developing as we're speaking. But currently on launch day, we're offering these two choices: the full screen player, where you can switch in between videos. You have your video playlist on the bottom, and then the drawer player, which can come in from the side. So this is just a very small background of our product and just a very small introduction of our product. Do listen to our previous live event or contact me on Twitter if you have any questions, or even put them in our chat if there are any product related questions. But I'm going to switch to Figma now because I think that's what everyone's going to be interested in seeing. And I will admit, my Figmas are not as organized as maybe like other people's. And I do have a very good reason for that. So let me know if you can see my Figma screen.
I see the app.
Yes, that is the.
I see it. Yep. It's like, oh, Siri, stop talking to me. Go away. It's I was going to say seductive, but seductive is not the right word. That's probably the Negroni speaking, but it looks like the real seeing. No, this is actually the design.
Right.
This is the real thing. It's one-on-one, and that's because I have very good front-end developers who are coding my designs, and I'm very picky about how they code it. I do want to thank my engineering team. They are extremely smart people. I cannot take credit over this product alone. They've helped so much, and they've worked so hard on this product in the past few months. I mean, we've been in full throttle for the past few months, and we've been building features very fast, like the collecting of video reviews, the social sharing, like the automated Facebook posts of videos. We built these features in I think it was 40 days, 45 days, not even 2 months, less than 2 months, from scratch, from absolute scratch. We built them and we tested them. So they're working really hard. I just want to thank, my team for that. So just in terms of Figma, what I'd like to show you, and I know there are a lot of designers joining us, and the reason why I wanted to show this is that when you turn into a founder from a designer, you're going to see that things will not be, as they used to be. So I did a lot of contracting work, and obviously when I do client work, everything's nice, tidy, it's organized. You do want to deliver the best quality of work to your customer, right? I care a lot about organizing my assets in a design system. I do have my own method of organizing them, but I mainly use the tools that Figma offers, such as symbol components. And I said symbols, like Chris is using Sketch. So we do use even a design system for review. And even though it's very, very basic, and right now it's not as organized as what I do for my clients, most of this design system was actually not organized by me. I do have to give credit to my junior designer. I have a junior designer who's been helping me on this. He's also my very good friend and brother-in-law, Vitaly. I think he's even joining us in the chat. He woke up early just to listen to this call. So he did an amazing work, just like organizing and sweeping behind me while I was like trying to move fast and build the application. And a lot of this—
So neat. How do I hire him? He's amazing. This is so great.
Find him on Dribbble. Maybe you can find him on Dribbble, Chris.
Oh,
his name is Vitaly Raiku. Find him on Dribbble. He's an absolutely talented person. I mean,
he's a beast.
He did all of these icons, even though this was my art direction. He started doing these, and he's amazing. He's amazing at like organizing these design systems, at iconography, and at creating both web and web applications. So I've been working closely with him, and he helped me to scale, with all of my components, and to organize them so that I don't have to worry about them. But as you can see, the web app actually looks in Figma as it does today, right now, that what's live. In terms of layout, just to give you some insight, like what I use in terms of grid and paddings, and and these are all personal preferences and things that I've learned along the way. So I'm using a 4-pixel grid. This is what worked best for me. I think that a few years ago I was using an 8-pixel grid, or you could use like a 5. But this is very helpful to be able to tell when you have like an off padding or like an off margin. Even for my engineering team, for my front-end team, I don't even have to give them feedback sometimes if the interface is wrong, because if they see that a padding is 23 pixels instead of 24, they already know that we're using this 4-pixel grid. So everything has to be a multiple of 4, right? And for the actual layout of the app, we have a fixed left-aligned sidebar. So this is a fixed width sidebar. And then the content of the actual application has 40 pixels padding on the sides. And it's a very classic 12-column, grid layout. Now, this is not yet mobile responsive. Ain't nobody got time for that right now. Like this, we're moving really, really fast. Nobody's actually launching their store and setting up video reviews and collecting video reviews from their mobile phone. There probably are some people that might want to check it. We are constantly upgrading the interface so that it's responsive and it looks better on smaller devices as well. But if you want to move fast, you don't got time to provide that unless it's a very important feature of your product, like a core app, a core feature. Then you should do that. And this is actually the support screen, and you can see that I use variants, for example, for tabs, and this is all standard practice for buttons as well. With icons, with like setting up the type of button, the states of different buttons. I don't want to teach you how to use Figma. Most of you who are already joining us are probably already using Sketch, which has symbols and has great alternatives to this. Chris is using Sketch, and we even like suggested maybe doing
no shade.
We've been suggesting doing like a context, like who can build an interface faster? Is it me, in Figma, or is it Chris in Sketch? Maybe that would be like an interesting experiment to do.
That would be interesting, especially depending on how many drinks we might have had. I think I might be way better at design after my second or third Negroni. You know what I'm saying? Anyways,
Absolutely.
Continue.
So
it's not fair that it's like 5 a.m. for you and it's drink o'clock for me. But
I'm pumped. Like I'm fresh, even though I just had like 4 hours of sleep last night. Like I'm fresh.
It's all right. It's all right. I'm going to call you Benjamin Franklin from now on. That's all right.
Thank you, Chris. That's honor. Thank you. You should put me like that in your contact list. But if you look at the basic information architecture of the web app, it's very standard. Not standard. It's a very classic type of information architecture. That where you read from left to right, top to bottom. So I do have my navigation on the left side as a sidebar, and then I do have my secondary navigation on the top of the page. Underneath the title of the page as a tab navigation. What was very important for me from the beginning was scalability, and to be able to scale this interface as I go. down the road. And given that I'm the only product designer for Review, and I have Vitalia, who's been helping me as a junior designer by organizing assets or producing quick icons. By the way, I strongly recommend, if you're a senior designer and you're trying to get work on multiple projects or just try to scale really quickly, hire another designer. It doesn't need to be an expensive designer. It doesn't need to be experienced. Like I thought a lot of other designers. I did some mentorship with them. Vitalia is one of them, where I taught them the freelance trade and how to become a freelance designer. So I did some mentorship for them for about 1-2 years. Vitalia has been with me for the past 3 years, and he started from scratch, no design knowledge whatsoever. I have to teach him what are the states of a button and like HTML formatting and like from the absolute very beginning. And but he's extremely useful right now. Like he's extremely talented, and he's such a fast learner. So if you're a senior designer, get a junior designer to help you with these assets, because these are very time-consuming assets. Like creating a design system, maintaining it, updated, it's time-consuming, and you're going to be focused more on your design system in Figma, which your customers will never see. So my goal, and this is how I flipped from.
Like, help me understand this. Like, in terms of, because I love the idea of just like having like designers just working for me or something. Like one, maybe like the cost of a Romanian designer is different than a Bay Arean designer, just by virtue of real estate. Again, like we don't have buyers here.
So, to be honest, Chris, I do not consider Vitalia a Romanian designer. Like he is Romanian, right? He's actually Moldavian, but he's being paid same amount of money as a US-based designer. So I actually respect. Yes, I respect his work. So it's the same amount that you would pay a junior designer in the US. So
okay, like I want to be clear. Like I think it's interesting that you brought in like respect and value, because I think part of this like a conversation is about like remote work and about finding it. And because some of the conversations that we had earlier, strapping and about trying to like extend your runway, right? And so adding in any staff or whatever and paying Bay Area rates because you respect their work, like part of the bit of going remote is that your overall cost can be reduced. So how do you like when you go to your investors, you're like, well, I'm going to be paying Bay Area rates for people who are all over the world. Like, does that fly? Like, how do you kind of think about that?
I can provide some light into how I make hiring decisions and why Vitalia is appreciated. So first of all, Vitalia is my brother-in-law, just to be very clear about that. And I do want to, and
I see. So you can hire family members, and then that makes it a lot easier. I see what's really going on here.
You got it? Okay.
So Vitalia, you remember when I did that thing for you and I drove you across the country, to like, go to school or something? You owe me.
Exactly. So no, he's also a very good friend, and I do respect his work. Like Nicole is, she's on the West Coast, and I do appreciate talent, and I'm so fortunate, for example, to have Nicole. I don't even know how I got her as a CMO. Like I'm probably one of the most luckiest founders to have her as a CMO, and I know everyone else hates me because they keep emailing Nicole to, for her to work with them, and she keeps turning them down. So please stop hating on me. She's with Review right now. She's very happy here. We're very happy, building this app. Coming back, to your compensation, I think talent should be compensated, very well compensated if you want to keep them around, if you think that they're going to provide actual value to your company. There are always shortcuts that you can do, like virtual assistants from different countries. Like,
hold. Let me slow you down, because like I'm asking a pretty specific question about the design part of this, because I would be very slow, and it might take me weeks to build this design system, to in theory increase my velocity, but in fact it would just ultimately slow me down because my brain doesn't really function in exactly all of these things. Like I'm kind of breaking out in hives right now because it's so orderly. It's very Bauhausian / I don't even know. Like I'm in a Crate and Barrel catalog of things that I could build a UI with, and I love it, but it's like I'm not a furniture designer. Anyways, I'm getting distracted. My question, my point really is about like thinking about the resources that you have, i.e., capital, spending it on this type of system, and to having this type of system and paying for, let's say, a junior designer help you in maintaining for shipping versus, I just want to have a nice environment, to use, to build my app. So if you're a startup, how would you rank the priority of this type of system versus chaos, but like moving quickly and, breaking things?
I'm going to show you some variations of how I move quickly and break things.
Great.
I am speed,
Good.
right? That GIF, like I am speed, like I try to move very fast. Now, the design system is very important when you scale. If you want to scale and if you want to keep your interface to the bare minimum updated, it is extremely important. It is core to at least to my activity. I do not spend crazy amount of time into like making it look beautiful and dribble ready and using like all of the different cool presentation techniques that you see online, because I actually care about the real customers who are using my product, and I care more about the end product that gets implemented and put into my customers' hands than this design system. Maybe someday I'll do a Medium post with it, and I'll do a Medium post about like how the app was built, and I'm gonna have Natalia again help me out.
Just do like a live stream,
or like a live stream like this,
yeah, right.
and show that off. But I care more about the actual product. And by the way, the reason why I keep showing you this page, which is a support page, is because this is, I think, probably the only one that's updated with the latest things. And now you're going to see, how this interface came to be. And I'm going to show you some other screens, and they're not as updated. And I don't keep them updated. And I don't even intend to go back and or even like have Natalia do that sort of work, or myself do that sort of work of like updating them and spending hours on updating my screen so that everything's nice and tight. No, I care more about the end product. And that's why we build fast. And the engineers that I work, they're very, their intuition is very good. They've been working with me for a long time. They know, what I intend to do. I don't have to overly explain it to them. They even start before I actually build the interface. So we talk about the concept. I put down the specs of that functionality. So all API connections, all of the backend logic starts to be written as I build the interface. So we start, in parallel.
How do you document that? Where, like, how do you? Because one of the things that I think is useful about this type of design, and especially because you're being pretty particular and specific, and yet there are variables and things like that will change from screen to screen, right, is the way in which this type of design is a communication tool versus a specification tool. And those things seem different to me. So where are you documenting, as you said, like the things that relate to like the API or to the other functionality or aspects of the app that relate to scalable, performance, or whatever?
Absolutely. So we use Notion for our entire company documentation. I'm a big fan of Notion. I highly recommend it to everyone who wants to stay organized and be productive. Notion is not sponsoring this call in any way. I'm just giving them a shout out, as well as to Figma. I'm a big fan of their product. One thing that we're going to do is Nicole is actually going to share a Notion template of how we organized our company. So Nicole, can you put a link, or can you leave your email address in the chat, and Nicole will reach out back to you about that Notion template. So all the documentation happens in Notion. We have a ticketing system for the engineering team, that's very well organized in terms of sprints. We work on 1 week sprints. This is really short. This is another advantage that allows me to build fast compared to other teams which have like bi-weekly sprints or monthly sprints, and they only push code, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every month, right? We try to push code as often as possible to our staging environment, test it really fast. If, at the end of the week or at the beginning of the week, depending, we're very flexible. We push it live to production after it's, it went to QA, sorry. So specs get written in Notion. We also have very short live meetings, like 1 week, like once a week, we have a kickoff meeting on Mondays just to make sure that everyone is aligned on what they're building. If anyone has questions, then they talk directly to me. Mondays are usually my product day, where I design and I talk to my engineering team to make sure that we're aligned on what we're building and how we're building it. But again, I do not follow a linear process where I start wireframes, I start designing. I did not do that. And then I talk to the devs. No, I actually talk to the devs first. I do the specs for the features, and they start implementing the backend as much as they can, as much as possible as they can, because API connections, reading API documentation with different platforms that you want to connect, that takes time. That does take a few days, to make sure that, you're grasping it and you know how to connect to it. And, you understand the full limitations of an API. And we're connecting right now to, we're connected already to Shopify, WooCommerce, and Magento, but we intend to add TikTok, Instagram as sources of video as well. We're already connected to Facebook, but we also intend to connect to LinkedIn, to Twitter, to be able to share your video reviews. We intend to connect to other e-commerce platforms such as BigCommerce, Salesforce Commerce, Amazon Store, for Amazon stores as well. Now, all of that, that's a lot of time for an engineer to read all of that documentation. And I think it's very important that the engineering team is aligned with the product vision, and my team is aligned with me. We all have this culture where we're aligned with the vision. We know what we're building. They know what we're building like 3 months ahead of building it. They know where we're heading, right? So they do have this, I would say, the long-term vision, because in a startup, 3 months, it is long-term a bit. You never, like, you won't know like what could happen after 3 months. Like, we pivoted a lot in just 2 months, you know? So quickly iterating is very, very important. So we're aligned with the vision, and we start in parallel. They start reading the documentation or do any work that can be done in parallel while I design. I skip the wireframing process. I mean, I use some very basic sketches on, you know, on notepads and just very, very basic. That's how I think. I think on paper, actually, but I do not create those, you know, very nice wireframes. I don't use a ruler for my wireframes because, again, nobody's going to see that. That's just for me. I just need to better visualize, you know, the functionality of a certain feature, and then I move directly to Figma. And this is where the design system comes into place. The design system is very helpful because it's going to be like Legos. You already have all of your components. All that you're doing is drag and dropping elements onto the page, and it's coming together, and that's it. So instead of like building something from scratch, which would be very time consuming, you do invest some time in the beginning of creating this design system. And I strongly recommend hiring someone to help you do that so that you're more focused on the product and they're focused on this time consuming task, which is organizing components, creating variants, and creating this design system.
So, because I think I got all this, like, but what I'm trying to figure out now is, one, how do you work through iterations? You know, you mentioned, I don't know if you talked about like test. One of the things that I'm getting the sense of is having this design system is that we have like a very standard set of, you know, widgets and components, you know, especially when it comes to like either Swift UI or like things like that you can just drag to compose, you know, interfaces. Now,
yes,
I would say that like your dashboard is like fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
To innovate on the widgets or components themselves. So that allows you to go in and to create or pick up an existing, you know, widget kit, which of course wasn't really a thing, you know, 10, 15 years ago, and just start building. So my question is kind of about how you manage that process and how you manage like iterative designs. You know, one of the things that I know that I do, which I don't know if it's a good or bad practice, you know, is having just sort of stacked variations of the same design, you know, with minor variations, you know, and when I was doing a lot of these designs, you know, there wasn't even like commenting or things like that. And so documentations and things that you're testing seems to be something that should be like easier and more possible. And especially when it comes into Figma, now you have like a social design tool. What are the ways in which you do iterate on design and, you know, like either test engineers to build multiple versions? Like how do you, maybe this is a question that's half about A/B testing and also half about managing your own iterations within your design process.
Mm-hmm. Sure, I can share some light, and I'm actually showing you one of the old versions of, like, this was from January, when whenever, like, I'm going to show you the iteration of the onboarding process and some of the things that I've learned, and I think we also covered a bit of this during our live product hunt event, but I'm going to go into more detail about onboarding specifically, because this was one of the lessons that I've learned while testing the app, was to be able to set up user expectations from the beginning and also try to introduce them better in the app. So we did a beta testing in January and February. We got over 100 store signs up. We proven product market fit. It was a very good run. But there was a problem in January, which was there was no welcoming message. There was nothing. I would just simply put the users into the app and then expect them to know how it works. And people did not know, like, immediately. Even though the app is fairly simple in terms of interactions, like 1-2 clicks away from any action, they did not fully understood the concept because it was new. Nobody's doing this. You don't find these apps on Shopify. So they didn't have anything similar to relate to. So I initially started with like a very, very pleased to meet you. That's it. Like, just put it like, ask my developers, I put some text. This took 2 minutes to put the text, like create a welcome screen. Just put some text in there. That's going to be good enough for now. We ran this, and then 1 day later, I was like, okay, this is not good enough. We need to be able to iterate on this. And I'm trying to find, one of the iterations. So one of the iterations was like, okay, let's try to like overly communicate a bit more to people like what we're actually doing, because when they install the app, everything like importing the products, finding the videos was happening behind the scenes, because it's happening really, really fast. So you're going to see this preloader actually when you install the app, if you have hundreds or thousands of products. Otherwise, it's going to install very, very fast in a matter of seconds. And you won't even notice what happened. Like, you're going to be like, what just happened? Okay. So even though this would cause like maybe a slower load time by a second, it would separate the process for the end user, and they would understand what was happening. So I created this step-by-step process where they cannot do anything right now in the app. Actually, I don't have, let me see, do I have that for, no, I did not. So a different design variation that I had was, it still had the app menus on the top. So this process had the app menus on the top, because before we were using a top navigation, like, yes, this is what we were using before. We had this top navigation because the beta that we offered, I think it didn't have A/B testing.
To be clear, this was like the original design back in January, and you've since moved to
design, but this is what we had.
Sidebar menu.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, this was the original design, and these are the features that we had. We had products, reports, dashboard was called report, and video player. Like that's it. It was very simple. And I also kept this. I kept this while I was showing that sign up flow. And what I realized was that people were not paying attention to this. They started already clicking on the menus and looking at the app. So again, sign up flow and onboarding.
How did you know that? Do you have like videos or user walkthroughs? Yes. Or
I'm using Hotjar. I'm using Hotjar to monitor user activity within the app. I love Hotjar and screen recordings and heat maps. They're a great tool to use for user testing. When I work as a contractor, I do a lot of Figma prototype tests. But if you want to move fast, you don't have time for that. You just got to get it into your users' hands and then watch them use it live. Obviously, you're going to lose some customers, but it's better to lose them in the early stage of the process than later down the road, right? Because in the early beginnings, you're going to have early adopters with small stores or, that are very eager to try this out, right? Because it's something new. Later on, you're going to have big customers, and you cannot afford to have these errors in your product. But we did have the navigation on top of the onboarding, and what I noticed is people were not paying attention to this like step-by-step onboarding. They started clicking on the menus and looking at the app. So once again, I lost their attention. So I removed the navigation completely. I just kept the header. Again, a very quick change from development. I did not even have to design it. I just told my devs, remove the navigation, keep the header. Let's just have this process. So we had the process of like importing, finding the videos, and then woohoo, we found 600 something videos for your products. Go check product videos. This was a very important thing. People were not checking the product videos. They were not doing any content moderation because the menu was actually named products. So if I go in here, yes, this is another iteration where like it started to get a bit more functionality in terms of menus. And this is where I saw a problem in terms of scalability horizontally. Like it was, I was like, this is not going to hold for long. So I definitely have to move to a vertical solution. So this is how our moderate tab was initially called. It was called products. And this was another problem because people were like, okay, those are my products, but where are my videos? Right? So I was like, oh, no, your videos are actually in your products. They're associated and synced with your products. So we renamed this tab moderate because that's the function, that it serves. Like that's what it does. It moderates, you go there to moderate the content that we find. So going back to this onboarding, obviously, we also had like an error screen if you're like, right, we couldn't find any relevant videos for your products because that happens, especially with fashion brands that are selling, very generic products. It's hard. Or if you have you're fairly new to the market, it's hard to find any relevant content on YouTube. But again, kudos to Vitalia for iconography. Thank you for helping out with these icons.
So by the way, like one thing that occurs to me, like one, you're currently focused on Shopify. But, eventually maybe you focus on other marketplaces. So you have a visual design, a visual language, you have, your own brand, which I presume has nothing to do with Shopify. So
absolutely nothing at all. Yes.
Was there a process for, brand development and color and like all those things? Cause it's occurring to me now that like, on the one hand, having like a UI kit or like a style guide is like one thing, but that still requires, work and iteration in and of itself.
Yes, it does. And this comes organically for me. Like I constantly look at a lot of inspiration, other products, and I do try so I can give you a bit of background about the brand. So let me just go to one of the initial files where I was designing the logo. Again, I did not have time to produce a proper logo. I was quickly pulling this together. I had this idea of a play button that would sit on top of a star because of rating.
Oh, that's what it is.
Video. I was like, see, that's not a good communication. This is not a good logo if you didn't understood what it was from the beginning. But it's a play button on top of a star, so it's ratings that play. That was the concept.
Wow, that's okay.
Right.
Oh, it's deep, man. That's deep.
Exactly. But the name wasn't even Review in the beginning. It was Vidi Star. It was VIDY Star. Vidi Star because of video stars. That was this is, I think,
killed the radio stars,
Yes.
So
something like that. But this, in terms of actual branding and maintaining it, Chris, it's organic. It just, it's organic. For example, I recently changed the shade of blue. I had a very dark shade of blue, and I changed it to this more bright, and saturated shade of blue because I noticed that it just looks better in terms of contrast with the orange backgrounds that I was using. That's all. It was just a personal preference. So I was like, yes, I like this better. I'm going to go with it. And it wasn't a big thing for my engineers to change it because in our design system, we use colors and we use color variables whenever we code something. So everything that initially was deep purple 1000, I was just going to change deep purple 1000 to deep purple 800. Boom. You did a search, you change it in a single place, and then, it will affect the entire application and the entire product. And I strongly recommend, if you're working with your engineering team, work closely with them on coding your design system using the same, I have variables for all of my colors. We have, the neutrals, we have the deep purples, these are all of the colors that we use right now in the brand, on the marketing site and everywhere. We also have text styles defined. So these are your ordinary, suspects when you have a design system and how you're working with your engineering team. So I'm going back to the onboarding process to what it is today. So another thing that we learned is in order to provide better search results on YouTube videos, we had to ask the question, are you a brand or are you a retailer? And the reason we're asking this, and we also covered it during our previous live event, was because a lot of stores had very generic product names like white t-shirt, black laces. We mentioned lock laces again. They're not sponsoring us, but we're mentioning them again. If we were to search YouTube for black laces or white t-shirt, you would not get any relevant results. But if you mentioned the brand name like lock laces, black laces, results improved dramatically. We immediately got the results that we wanted. So from the very beginning, we created this fork in our onboarding process where people, where store owners have to choose what they're starting to they're starting as a retailer or as a brand. So you can see, I provide hover effects if I feel like my engineer is not going to get it 100%. So I'm going to tell him hey, on hover, this has to go larger. That the other one has to be desaturated, more muted.
Are your engineers in Figma? Are they looking at
yes,
your
specific? Active in Figma. All of them know how to use Figma. Okay. It's they're very well accustomed.
So they're actually grabbing the attributes that you're setting
in
Figma.
Everything from here. I don't even have to do exporting assets. They know how to export.
And is that aided by the fact that you're using React? Is it separate? I feel there are going to be some, I don't know, visual, not engineering, but developer kits that will make this type of back and forth much easier, right? Where you go in, you copy the code, and you paste it into your IDE.
Exactly. They do it, from the inspect tab, they have all of the properties in here. And because of this tab, you can use and you can check out textiles, you can check the color variables. They're very accustomed to this. We're not using any third-party tool to sync this. Right now, they're just using Figma and then they're raw coding it by themselves. So they're very accustomed to it. Yeah. Another iteration that I want to show is on the final screen of the onboarding. So you can see where this was our final screen. And still, people were not checking out their videos. And I was like, okay, we got to overly communicate. So let's just give them 1, 2, 3. Here's what you have to do. And these iterations happen in a matter of, I think, days over the course of 10 days or something like that. And obviously I wasn't just working on the onboarding back then. I was building, 6-7 features across the app, and we were studying user behavior at the same time through Hotjar. And my engineers kept receiving feedback from me on all of these small changes. So we would implement it, push it, and then, okay, let's see what happens on new installs. And, we got really excited, when we got a new install. It's like, okay, this is a new victim, right? That's going to test our app. And I'm very curious on how do they interact with it? So one of my goals is, and what I recommend to other product designers or even other founders that are might be listening to us, is don't get stuck in doing pixel perfect design in Figma and keeping your Figma extremely organized. Keep it good enough so that you can scale, because your customers will never see, and they will never appreciate like the amount of work that you put into that design system or into keeping these files super organized. Keep them well enough organized for yourself, and then focus on the end product. That's how you can iterate fast and build products faster. If you're working with a big team such as, I don't know, like the Shopify's design team, where I have a lot of friends, it makes sense. Like, it makes sense. And I do that for, when I was a contractor, I did that. Like, I kept everything very close to perfection as possible. But now that I'm a founder, my goals have changed and my priorities have changed. Priority number one is having a great product that people can use. And I will show you that not all of my screens look like this. Like, this one right now has our traffic lights on the sidebar, which, by the way, represent if the video widget is published, if you're collecting video reviews, if you're connected on social sharing. These might turn to red if you don't have enough emails to collect video reviews and you have to update, or if, I don't know, for some reason you have an error for Facebook. Or they're gray if this is inactive. But I'm going to go to a feature that actually lives inside the app today, and I've actually shown this to you. This is the collect email reviews feature. You can see it still looks exactly like in the app. However, the navigation hasn't been updated, and I don't even care about updating. I'm never going to go in to update it because I care about the content. My engineers are aligned to this. They already know that okay, this is how the feature is supposed to look like. Do not look at the side of the navigation. We're already using a different type of navigation. And all that I care is about the actual content of this feature, right? Like, that's what I care about. And yeah, you can see how, how this is being designed in Figma. Like, I do provide small hints like this, like we got to make the header sticky, so it's just a small hint that when this is going to scroll, the header will stay sticky on top. And I also provide all of the, any responsive variations. So like, okay, this is how it's going to look on mobile. This is how, text styles will change when the email will.
That's not like a very challenging responsive design, right? So like,
no,
when it becomes more challenging, are you actually designing like the full responsiveness as well, or is that not really a priority at this stage?
No. Like this, I haven't even done this. For example, this is Vitaly, my junior designer as well. I just told him, make a mobile variation. Again, I'm aligned with my team. When I tell him that, he already knows what to do. He knows that, when he does that, like, small fonts have to become smaller. You need to maintain the same proportions visually. I trained him, so that he's aligned with my vision. And that's how I train my engineering team, so that everyone is aligned with the vision that I have. And when I tell them to do a certain thing, they know what I mean by that. I don't have to overly explain or write specs. Now, you might be able to debate this and say, well, that's not very scalable when you're going to have a team of 10 designers and a team of 100 engineers. And I do agree. But right now, I'm taking advantage of this. I'm taking advantage of this to move fast and build fast. And that's what you should do when you're at a very early stage. Take advantage of the resources that you have. Be scrappy. Be a hustler. Don't follow the norms. I do not recommend that. Like, try to be yourself and just get a very good product in the hands of your customers as soon as possible. Now, let me show you some really old things. But before that, I want to show you some other nice things, just so that you have a very good impression of this. So this is how, for example, we did some of the we were exploring variations in terms of a video carousel. So these are inline videos, and all of the video widgets that we put on website, they're adaptive and responsive, and they adapt to the medium that you put them in. And you can see this is for example, how I work, and Vitalia helped me a lot with these, creating on different layouts, on different resolutions. These are all breaking points where the actual inline widget adapts and changes structure a bit. So yes, I'm just giving you a quick view of how we design all of the inline widgets, from galleries, from playlists, from different carousels, and See, like for example, this is a hover button. I didn't even spend time to like writing specs. I just told them like, that's a hover button. The circle just moves a bit. That's it. And that's good enough for them. But I'm going to just show you a quick peek into like the early variations of the product. Like this is from, I think, a year ago. So when Shopify had their old interface, this is how it actually got started. So you were actually adding a product. There was no product saying you were adding a product, and there were no like, you just added YouTube links, and we had like a product preview, and then you would save it. Very
different.
Like this is one. Like let me show you. So I actually have a few others. This is the first widget. It was a star widget that said, we got video reviews for all of your products. Go check them out. So it was a star widget that appeared in the bottom right corner of the screen because I was thinking everyone's using intercom. I don't know. Let's create a widget similar to intercom's widget. So that was like my initial idea. And when you would click on it, it would appear like this. Something like, it's very similar today, but very different at the same time. So it was very close to intercom's widget, I think. It was too close, but this is one of the early variations in terms of design variations. And yeah, you can see some of my product specs that I was giving to devs back then. Like, okay, this is how it's put. I was more of a designer than an entrepreneur a year ago. I was trying to make it look nice. I'm not going to spend that time today. Like, I'm not going to spend time doing this. Like, no, absolutely not at all. I can actually find some other variations. Yeah, right, there we go. So this was like the first mobile player. By the way, all of our widgets are mobile optimized. They work great on mobile. It's, so we've been taking care of that. But these are some of the early variations in terms of widgets and how widgets.
If you were to go back to yourself back then and like provide yourself with advice, I mean, would you essentially tell yourself not to spend all this time on these design iterations and doing all this effort, given what you've said now?
Yes, I would not have spent time on all of this. I mean, it's good to iterate, but don't try to make it perfect. Just try to make it, as an iteration so that you can visualize if this is a good fit or not, right? And like, I do make a lot of assumptions because you have to make assumptions early stage until you have customer feedback. So that
what's an example of an assumption that you were making back then?
Yeah, so one of the assumptions was like the widget should be, on the like bottom right side. It's an assumption, like it was a hypothesis. Like I think that's where it should be.
And why did you decide to move away from that?
Because everyone has chat on the right side, and then we put it on the left side. So I figured that out, from like actual data, like user data. And later on, you will be able to make user-driven decisions. But early on, you got to make assumptions. And by the way, this was the initial name of the company, Vidistar, and this was the initial logo. And you can see some of the iterations on the player. So I was thinking about categorizing videos in reviews and unboxing inside the player itself. Again, ideas like look at all of these player ideas that I was exploring back then, just for this top navigation. To me, like Claudiu from today would think that Claudiu from a year ago was crazy. Like, Claudiu, stop doing that. You're wasting your time. I was creating specs like this, and I was trying to be detailed. I was like, no, don't do that. This is slowing you down, and it was slowing me down, to be honest. See. Like I was doing all of these variations, and I was trying to make them look good for my devs and make it very easy to understand.
Why were you doing that?
Because that was my nature as a designer. Whenever I would present my work, to customers, I would try to make it as detailed as possible, as organized as possible.
Did you ever find out, like, is that what your customers wanted, or is it just kind of like what was expected?
I think that's what was expected, probably. I'm not sure if they wanted that or not, because they're not accustomed to design systems, as we are. They do not intimately understand all of these components as we do. They care, as I do today, about the final product, right? But me, as a designer,
no, and I like push back on it, because I think like everything that you've been saying requires a little bit of like, I don't know, like a pinpoint on it, which is that, as designers, we are trained, to like think and care a great deal about the appearance of things,
Exactly.
However, what I have learned, and I think what you have learned in the last year, is the real focus in terms of effort needs to be on the outputs and the results. And so, the promise that you're making with Review is that you're going to help people to sell more products by leveraging social proof that other people who have done, video reviews have offered, so you can learn more quickly. And as we said, earlier today, It's like walking around a store and going up to someone and saying, hey, like, is this thing like really right for me? And then being able to use these recorded videos as a way of learning in a more qualitative way than what you might be able to get out of like reading a review. So the thing that I find so interesting about design, once we move into a world where, I don't want to say like design is commodified or commoditized, but where the idea of launching, and I've gone through this process myself, and I think it actually inhibits my design practice in some ways because I'm slower than you. It means that like coming up with like the perfect solution actually is oxymoronic, because number one, as a designer, the idea is to be in process, to be in conversation with a customer, and then to be learning and growing and changing. And so you're actually throwing away 90% of the work that you end up doing. I mean, all these iterations and things that you're showing are great because they are, process work, but you're not what actually ends up getting coded and what the end customer sees is like such a small fraction.
Exactly. And I mean, you put it, exactly as it is. The customer is not going to see this. It will help you to better visualize the product and to better come up with new ideas and new hypotheses. But right now, today, I would focus, more on the actual product that's being delivered to my customers and not on the, on the visual part so much. I was data-driven before, and I was doing a lot of data-driven decision and data-informed decisions and doing a lot of user testing with all the products that I used to work on. But I'm even more like that today, right? So, and my goal is to just ship it as fast as possible into users' hands, get them to test it, right? And then get feedback from that. Like sometimes I don't even do design in Figma for my engineering team. We start live coding, like I just hop on a session with them and like, let's make some changes quickly. That's it, and then because you have to move past. Yeah.
I mean, that's something like kind of like getting to like that leading edge where, it's like surfing or something. It's like you're riding that wave with your engineers. You're coming in with design language. You're collaborating in real time. When do you is doing more of the kind of visual design iteration work that needs to go into like needs to help you think out what you think are actually good solutions that they might actually implement?
So I've been doing that actually for a few years, and with most of even when I was a contractor, if I had access to the development team and if I was leading them, which sometimes that happened, like I was leading the front end engineers to make sure that the product looked and functioned as I intended to, as it was aligned with my vision. So I did have access to that, and I was doing that. But I do appeal to Figma when it's a fairly new concept that they might not be able to visualize. Like that's when I go into Figma, and even myself, I might not be able to visualize it sometimes. So I actually have to see like, how does it look? Does it look as good as I think it does, or is this like a bad idea? Is this a bad idea that maybe I should like just explore and I don't know. Let's see how it looks. This is one of the video players, by the way, and how how this was designed in terms of variations, and we got the small player over here as well. But for example, the types of things that I go into and I explore with them is like a hover effect, or like an animation tweak, or changing information on a page. For example, like a very quick thing that we did was before in our player, and these were like all responsive variations. Like they asked me questions. Like for example, this is a very good example of why you should use Figma sometimes to just like quickly prove a point. They were asking, what happens if like the browser's height is very small? I was like, okay, I can explain to you. So you can put the video and you can put, black space around it, like empty space around the video, but still maintain the same look and feel of the video player, right? So I had to provide them with a visual solution to better understand. And I would use, Figma as a tool to do that because it's very easy for me to like just quickly drag things in here and I can move very fast. But another thing that I did not have to explain was, for example, see the way that we show the number of likes and views of a video in a player. I wasn't a big fan of this. This was just like something that we inherited from the beta. And then I just told them, please, remove that and just place the number of likes and videos as a very small, secondary information underneath the title. I didn't, and this was like, that's it. I just put the text in here. And this was not done by me. This was done by Vitaly. He did this after I told him. The engineering team understood what I meant, and that's it. So we're trying to move as fast as possible. And you will have an advantage as a startup. You will always have an advantage compared to larger corporations, because you have this process that is not as complicated. It doesn't have as many setbacks or approval points within the process, and you can move faster. You can hack your way, through hack your way through the design process and just build faster. The main advantage that I have is I'm also a computer engineer by trade. I don't code myself. I think I haven't coded in 10 years or something. I would not even call myself an engineer, to be honest. I cannot call myself an engineer. I'm a product designer, but I do understand their language. I understand programmatic logic and how you're supposed, to write certain code or think about it. I do understand their limitations and certain languages that they use. And for me personally, that was very helpful. So if you're just a UI designer that understands color theory, that's great for you. You're a great graphic designer. But if you want to build products and ship them into your users' hands, you got to be more than that. You need to understand coding. You need to lead a development team, an engineering team. And you also need to iterate very fast. So stop following the streamlined process, the one that's like being taught to you. Just be fast, move fast. You don't need to follow that process. You can hack your way through it, build faster, and get it into people's hands as fast as possible.
All right, I think we've come up. So this is great, man. This is a great little whirlwind. Hopefully you've enjoyed your coffee. I haven't been down the grind.
Yeah, it's done, and I'm pumped right now. Like I can go for hours.
I can tell. Any final thoughts? Anything that you want to leave folks with? I mean, you've obviously provided a bunch of guidance, advice along the way. Anything else that you want people to think about?
Feel free to reach out to me on Twitter if you're looking for any freelance advice or any or how I run my remote team. Like our entire team is remote. My engineering team is close by. They're over here in the same city that I am, and they're working from an office, but I'm working from home. To be honest, I never visited their office, just so that you know that because of the pandemic and because of lockdown, we stayed in touch over Zoom, and the leader of the engineering team, he's actually my next door neighbor, and that's convenient. Like I talk with him because we're like next doors. We share a fence in between our houses. So if you want to learn more about working remotely, leading your team remotely, also establishing yourself as a contractor designer and exploring more of the product design type of design, where you build products and you ship them instead of just being a UI designer that's focused more on the visual and on the aspect. Follow me on Twitter at Claudiu Cioba. Support us on Product Hunt. We're launching Review on Product Hunt right now for Shopify. I would really appreciate that. And also follow Chris. I mean, Chris is a great designer. I've been looking up to Chris, for a long time, and I've been following him. He didn't even knew that I existed. That's okay. And now we're friends. So I feel better about that.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we're gonna wrap this up. Our first ever Design and Cocktails. I feel good. Hopefully, you guys feel good. Yeah, come say hi. We'll be on the socials.
Absolutely. Bye, everyone.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.